Hey everyone, Adam and Andrew with It Takes Two Takes. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and consider subscribing, bells for notification, do all that crazy stuff. Either way, be in the know, connect with us. I'm going to start off by saying that. Adam, I'm changing it up by doing this. I feel it's important.
You're throwing me off here. I'm not sure how to respond to this. I mean,
if you haven't subscribed, there's a problem.
I'm getting triggered here, but let's keep going.
I hope you're I hope you are the 6 or 7% of our subscribers by now, Adam. We are here to talk about The Devil All the Time. The Devil All the Time is a movie that is exclusive to Netflix. I don't even want to go through the list of actors and actresses in this. It's
Robert Pattinson and Tom Holland. Those were the ones they really advertised, but there are a lot more names in it than that.
A genre I heard to describe this film that I love is hillbilly gothic. I feel like that is a very apt description of this film. It is a film that sort of follows different characters. It's kind of a coming of age tale, and that's really, really putting it mildly. This is an intense film. I really liked it, but it is an intense film.
Yeah, I admit watching it, I wasn't really sure what to expect. The amount of time devoted to even the backstory of Tom Holland's character and some of the other characters was way more than I would have expected, right? One of the things I find so funny when you look at these movies is, the two main actors that they had highly billed in this are both English actors playing Hillbilly Hicks.
Yes. And almost anyone that really, a lot of the bigger names, or at least more recognizable faces, if you don't know the names, that are in this film are not originally from the United States.
Right.
It's interesting to me to have such a Southern, or let's say Southern mid sort of Western dialect. It was actually very well done.
It's redneck.
It's redneck. I didn't even finish the film. I was partially through it, and I had to know a little bit more about this. And I went down this rabbit hole of Donald Ray Pollock, who had written the novel that this film was based on. And it turns out that Donald Ray Pollock was basically, he was a truck driver. He worked at a paper mill. He was within, he had lived most of his life in Ohio. And at that point, around the age of 50, he ultimately decided to go back to school, get a graduate degree, and start writing. And this was his first full-length novel. He had such strong ties with that region, and he had this obsession with sort of the ugly side of, sort of Christianity, fundamentalism. As soon as I was reading about that, I thought nothing is going to go well for anyone in this film. And for the most part, that's the case. And if you go into this film thinking that, that's what you're gonna be all right.
Yeah, nothing really works well for the religious people in this film. It's a dark movie, so if you decide to watch this movie, which if you're watching this review, hopefully you've already seen the movie, but it's not gonna come out with a happily ever after, right? It's very
for much anyone,
right? Expect everyone's life to be complete shit. In the long run. By the end, everyone's life, they're either dead or their life is shit. That's about what it comes down to.
Yeah, think like a Tarantino film, but not on the fringe of comical, or, you know what I'm trying to say? Like it's not stretching the boundaries of this is all, it's from a darker place than a Tarantino film, whereas Tarantino kind of revels in it. This film seems to, maybe to a degree, revel in some of the death sequences or the tragedy sequences, but it feels like from a much more direct and a different place of pain, in my opinion.
And though I enjoyed the movie, it's not something I see myself watching a second time. I think some of the performances I liked the best weren't even the ones that were the top billed. Like, Tom Holland and Robert Pattinson were good in their roles, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But they weren't, to me, the most interesting characters of the story. Like, Tom Holland's character, they set his character up of being, yes, his childhood was shit, and he went through some traumatic stuff, so he's damaged. And that's pretty much his character. He's a damaged guy who doesn't like religion.
He's a damaged guy, but he also operates under tragedy and damage. I mean, he has no choice, right? In other words, like even as a young adult,
Yeah.
people are suffering around him, and he's not going to react because of what he's been what's been inflicted upon him.
He saw his mom die of cancer. Then he saw his dad crucify his dog up onto a cross as a sacrifice to bring the wife back. And then when that didn't work, he saw his father kill himself.
Basically, yeah.
The one thing I will say that they didn't do a good job of is his quote unquote stepsister, why she was bullied. Like, there wasn't really anything about that actress that stood out, whether it be her personality or her looks or anything, on why 3 guys at that school were going to bully her.
Yeah, I mean, you could say there were a few things in terms of conflict or what characters had brought upon themselves. Like, I would even say the same thing, and I don't mean to jump too far into a whole nother storyline, but I feel like it's worth mentioning. You know, you have a couple that are essentially serial killers. I feel like they could have spent more time in understanding the development of that and all that. Like,
they were the ones I wanted to know the most about. They were actually fascinating to me. Of all the characters in that movie, those 2 were actually the ones I actually really wanted to follow a whole lot more on. I would be fine if they did another movie that just followed them for 2 hours, you know?
And, you know, my understanding is that and I'm only basing this off of things that I've heard, that the actual source material, the novel, spends much more time on them. So we're left with what we have from a film standpoint. All things considered, yeah, it certainly served its purpose within the scope of the actual film. But I agree with you. I wish they had spent more time with those 2. But I want to quickly, and I don't mean to like throw you off here, but we are struck once again with a Netflix original that essentially has Dudley Dursley once again playing a part, Harry Melling. Like, we had it in The Old Guard, and now here he is yet again playing a great character, a very spineless character. But speaking of motives and things that were very underdeveloped, I felt like his whole storyline and what caused him to essentially kill his wife, like it was very underdeveloped. And yet again,
they explained it. The narrator explained it.
Right.
You know,
which, by the way, was the author of the book, which I thought was very cool that they actually recruited him to do that with zero film experience.
Part of his stick was, dumping a bunch of spiders on his head.
He was a gimmick. I get that.
One of them bit him. He had a reaction, and he thought that him praying it away in the closet, somehow he managed to get a supernatural connection to the Lord. And so he thought he wanted to prove that he did. So he thought, well, the easiest way to do that, kill his wife and bring her back.
And I get all of that. It certainly makes sense with everything else that happens in this film. I just felt like, I don't know, it would have been more satisfying from a tragedy standpoint, if nothing else, to understand the build up to that.
What gets me, though, is he gets practically the same day he kills his wife. He gets told that he needs to have sex with another man's wife while it's being photographed. And he just got done murdering his wife. But, having sex with this married woman was apparently above and beyond what he was okay with.
It's actually worth consideration. Like, he's conflicted in that moment. Like, you just murdered another human being. Don't you think your mind is just elsewhere and be like, listen, can I just get to where I need to go? I don't even know what to do here.
The backstory on Robert Pattinson's character, I would have almost liked a little bit more as well. He just kind of shows up and, he likes to screw young girls and then deny that he's the father.
It was certainly a flash, but it was an impactful one. I thought his performance was fantastic, in my opinion.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson is actually a great actor. I think a lot of people don't give him credit because every time they see him, they see Cedric Diggory and they see Edward Cullen. From Twilight, right?
Understandable.
But if you've watched anything else that he's been in since the Twilight movies, including the new movie Tenet, he's a good actor. So I think a lot of people give him a bad rap, and it's unjust.
His performance was great. That scene where Arvin is sitting in the chapel with him, the Reverend Robert Pattinson. That scene was so tense and it made me uneasy. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and say the film in general made me uneasy. And really the last like 10 minutes of the film, Arvin's sitting in a car and I'm like, there's no way he's going to live. And I felt so uncomfortable because at this point I had just like been so conditioned to think everyone is out to get everyone. No one is safe. And in that regard, it was very effective.
My biggest nitpick about the movie is the underdeveloping of some of the characters, right? The source material, which has probably got a lot more backstory on them, has probably got a lot more of what I would have liked. And there's only so much you can fit into a single movie. But Sebastian Stan's character of the cop, I would have liked more of him. And I'm sorry, let's take a moment for the fact that not only does he find a topless picture of his sister, but he sees a bunch of other naked or topless photos of his sister with dead bodies. And his reaction, though, I'm sorry, but I don't have a sister, but if I had a sister and I saw a topless picture of her, I think the first thing would have been, oh, I don't want to look at that. But what's he do? He pockets it. And then
that shows the obsession. I think that's a big part of the theme of this film is the obsession and the greed, right? Like his obsession with his status as sheriff and his need to get the re-election.
I really wanted him to be at least a little bit put off about seeing a topless photo of his sister.
But I think that film just kind of subverts all of that in so many ways.
Maybe if they'd done more backstory on his character, maybe then I would have felt a little bit differently about it. But his character was another one that was very underdeveloped in a lot of ways.
I'm not going to disagree with you. Listen, at the end of the day, like I do feel like this film could have been a miniseries. It didn't even have to be 8 episodes. I would have accepted 4 or 6 or whatever. And I think that would have really fleshed out a lot of these characters. But in your example, I understand exactly what you're saying. Sebastian Stan's character as the sheriff, like I feel like I would have loved to see more development with him. But I do feel like every character has been enough of an asshole to the point where you're like, I know what is going on. I don't know much about this character, but I know that every character is doing a lot of the same thing, and this doesn't fully surprise me. Look, this film to me, I'd be very selective on who I'd recommend it to. I loved it for what it was, but I'm not going to go and just tell everyone to go see this movie. And
if you need something to watch, I mean, it's a streaming movie. If you got Netflix, you need something to watch. You're interested in a dark movie that is not going to leave you with a happy feeling in the end, then watch this movie. But if you're wanting something, I wouldn't watch this probably right before bed because it could give you some interesting dreams.
I would agree with you. I would say that if you want a film that is going to stay with you for a short period of time, perhaps a long period of time, this will do that, but it is not for everyone. It comes from a dark place. It's executed very well, in my opinion, all things considered. If that's your lane, go on through it.
Yep. And I think that's it. I think we've covered this pretty good. Watch the movie. And if you haven't, and if you have, love to hear your thoughts on it. Leave a comment and share this video. Get the word out.
I want to hear from the book readers. Like if you've read this book and you've seen this film and you're watching what we're saying, throw in some thoughts. I don't know. I'm curious about that. So.
All right. Well, until next time, this has been It Takes Two Takes. Take care.